Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Series with Kevin Britz, proudly powered by leadershipbydesign.co, where we aim to add value to people's lives. You can listen to us live every Wednesday and Thursday at lunchtime on ebuzzradio.com and all your major podcast channels today, guys. So if you are seeing and hearing this today, I challenge you to add value to someone's life. We certainly need more people to add value to people's lives and to be kinder to one another. So with that in mind, in today's marketing leadership segment, we've got Craig Page-Lee, our marketing and communications expert and co-host. Craig, how are you doing?
Kevin here, always good to be sitting here and chatting, ready for another edition on this incredibly hot day. It's like 34 degrees outside, preparing for a brutal summer ahead, I reckon.
Yeah, I think I'm like, we have really hot Decembers and we're not even going to be like 2 months away. So I'm thinking December's like we're going to have a glorious scorcher of a December holiday time.
I think
I'm looking forward to having a bit of a suntan and trying to find as many pools and beaches as I can attend. Just be lazy and do that for a while.
I like that.
So I mean, I know that you had a comment on that. I must say something about the rugby. So I think we won the rugby, but not because we were great.
Yes.
Right.
Just because we had a great kicker. That's the only reason.
Yes. So we had a great kicker, and I think that, just from my 2 cents opinion, I think it felt like we didn't even have a game plan. It felt like we were just defending their game plan the whole time. They had a game plan. They were attacking, our guys, the whole team, with different play and different strategy. And it looked like they had strategy. It looked like they were prepped and ready and happening, but we were just defending it. It didn't look like we came out, even in the second half, like we had any kind of game plan.
Kevin, from my side, 2 things. I think, well, firstly, I've got to give credit to all the other teams. South Africa, for a long time now, last few years, has actually changed the game plan and have been winning with quite a special approach to rugby, the flexibility of players, different positions, the strength, the fitness, the mindset. And some of the top 4 teams have really stepped up to understand that game and have come at us with much of our own game. And that's what happened on Saturday. Weather did play a part of it. So our game was disrupted from being able to play the traditional game we did. So weather did play a part, but also the brutality of the French game on our players. I think the guys really were tired and sore and just, they went straight into another brutal match after that, and it caught up with them. But that said, there's another brutal game on Saturday. And the weather is anticipated to be raining again as well. So a very different game plan has to be considered. Let's just see how they do it.
Yeah, and on that point, then I'm going to shut up. But I'm like, on that point, like the ball handling skills from South Africa was pretty atrocious.
I think the wet contributed to that as well.
Yeah, I think, and that's not helping. So, they have to consider, when you're going into a moment with handling the ball, make sure that you're gripping it. Like a lot of them have got plasters on their fingers, and I'm going, clearly the plasters are not even working, guys.
It's
okay. So Saturday, Craig, are we winning or are we losing?
Yeah, Kevin, I hate to say this, but I think we're losing.
I'm going to say we're winning. I'm going to challenge you, Craig.
Good. I'm very happy to hear that.
Craig, with that said, we had a great conversation last week with some special guests joining us. Don't you want to give us a bit of a recap on what we were chatting about from last week's conversation?
Yeah, Kevin, thanks. So we touched on a really current and hot topic last week, which was represented by our guests, Stephen Horn, who's the country director of Clean Creatives SA, and Kaz Karsing-Dreyer. Kaz is also a Clean Creatives team member and a really proficient and prominent social media marketer with many years of sustainability marketing experience. So for our listeners, we covered the topic of the SF list, which names South African creative agencies and PR companies who work with fossil fuel clients, hence the F. And the reason our guests were on the show is that this list was actually compiled by Clean Creatives. The key reminder points from the conversation include an important paragraph from the Fossil Free SA campaign as published in the Clean Creatives SA report. And the paragraph notes the following, Kevin. South Africa is amongst the world's top contributors to climate change. Thanks to heavy reliance on coal, the country is among the top 15 largest emitters globally and has the world's most carbon-intensive economy. The country is also particularly climate vulnerable, warming at twice the rate of the global average. And those are definitely points for concern, Kevin. And as much as the global warming is directly attributed to fossil fuel companies around the world, with every one of the companies using various communication industries and agencies to present their activities in a rather different and untruthful way. In other words, pure greenwashing, hence the creation of this F list. The discussion also noted that there are a myriad of other industry types that are contributing significantly to global warming and also using greenwashing to deflect the consequences of the actions. We know that while the power of the purchase decision still lies in the hands of consumers, they really do need to do more to investigate in establishing the true green credentials of the brands that exist in their lives and more vehemently call out those brands that are lying. The opportunity does exist for brands to be more self-reflective and question their why and what they believe. As we discussed before, Kevin, very few organizations actually know why they do what they do, apart from wanting to make as much money as possible and fill their pockets, all at the expense of the planet. So why is a cause or belief? And when there's clarity on why organizations actually exist, we'll hopefully see many more businesses make fundamental changes to what they do and how they do it. And the closing point for me is that the communication industry also needs to do this self-reflection, Kevin, really getting to grips why they do what they do and how their choices and ways of doing business support the actions of their clients, whether for good or bad. And hopefully the F-list fast tracks the self-reflection and brings a few more agencies onto the right side of calling out clients, I should say, that operate destructive businesses. And those are the key reminder points from last week, Kevin.
Fantastic, guys. So if you want to go and check out who is on the F list, go and check it out on YouTube. There's a link there with full PDF document to really unpack that a little bit more into detail. And that's where you'll find it. Craig, so what are we going to be chatting about today?
Kevin, yeah, as we often continue themes from previous discussions, I'm going to pick up in the last show relative to the sustainable conversation. And while we've discussed the expectations on brands by consumers to adopt and demonstrate sustainable best practice, we know how consumers are voting with their wallets against the brands that don't toe the line in this regard. We have, however, never really discussed the drivers behind this clarion call. As such, I thought we should take a start by just doing a top-level overview of the commitments to net zero as made at COP, which is the Conference of Parties, which is the annual general meeting where the UN member states gather to assess progress on dealing with climate change and making a plan for climate action. And the reason I say this is because the next COP meeting, titled COP28, actually begins on the 30th of November 2023 in Dubai, the United Emirates. And be interesting to see what other pledges have been made and who's been called out for actually not committing to, or at least delivering against the previous commitments made. But to set context, Kevin, net zero is an ideal state where the amount of greenhouse gases released into the Earth's atmosphere is actually balanced by the amount of greenhouse gases that are removed. And the most important point to note here that decarbonization efforts are needed to reach this net zero target. And once we've established a better understanding of the importance of net zero and decarbonization, I then want to pick up on a few industries that are actually making concerted efforts to move past this greenwashing and demonstrate real action and efforts that they're undertaking to help move towards this net zero, Kevin. I can't hear you, Kevin, sorry.
Sorry about that. So I mean, how do we achieve the net zero, and is it even possible? Because that sounds like quite a quite a task.
Kevin, yeah, I like the is it even possible aspect to your question. And in all honesty, I did at a point in time believe it was possible. But we're seeing fossil fuel companies drawing back on their commitments extensively. And the willingness to change and adopt more sustainable business practices definitely is taking a back seat, which means continuous devastation of the planet, in my opinion. So is it possible? I don't know, honestly. But the article titled "What is Net Zero?" as published to McKinsey.com on 28 November 2022 addresses your question in a bit more detail, Kevin. And the article clearly notes that all industries, not just the energy sector, must work to achieve a net zero to avoid this permanent warming of the planet. And it goes without saying that decarbonization is probably the only way that we're going to achieve this. The article also provides a really good overview of what decarbonization is and how it can be implemented across various industries. And from this, we learn the following 3 key points. Decarbonization is the mitigation, cessation, or reduction of carbon in the atmosphere. It is achieved by switching to energy sources or materials that emit less carbon, often from high carbon emitting fossil fuels, and by counteracting any carbon that is emitted. The second point is keeping global warming to a maximum of 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels will be necessary to prevent permanent planet warming. And as we've already experienced, the globe is experiencing really disastrous and catastrophic weather events, Kevin. And the third point here is that decarbonization can only be achieved by limiting the buildup of atmospheric greenhouse gases. And here again, all industries really need to work towards decarbonization to come anywhere close to achieving this net zero. But a big step change is required, especially by these power, oil, gas, and transport industries, as they still cited as the biggest culprits of greenhouse gas emissions, Kevin.
Craig, when I listened to that, I I saw a post earlier today where they were showing a plane flying over Palestinians dropping a bomb and showing how much money it costs for a plane that costs so much money to drop a bomb, that costs so much money, killing people that live only on $1 a day. And you kind of, it's difficult to wrap your brain around, how do we get to sustaining any kind of change and it's like impact into the world when that kind of stuff is happening, in parts of the world as if it's normal,
That's a big statement, a big question. Yeah, for twofold. Number one, firstly, destruction of the planet in a very different way, intentional war, the murdering of innocent people on both sides, and the consequences of bombs and warmongering on the greenhouse gases of the planet as well. I think every single bomb, every single explosion exacerbates and contributes to the warming of the planet. And war's not happening just in one place. That's the sad reality. But that's for another very different conversation, because I think it's just absolutely treacherous what's going on, Kevin.
And maybe we need another pandemic. Maybe we need another pandemic to calm everyone down and get them locked up, because because that'll get people quickly settled down and stopping them in their tracks with all the nonsense that's happening within the wars that's happening currently. Because you kind of go, that's as much as it was a pandemic and a lot of people lost their lives because of it, they weren't actively the whole planet. I mean, the pictures of the planet and the smog and the dust that settled in the period that we were having the pandemic how much that changed, right? And I'm sure maybe that was an experiment that the Chinese were having, or someone was having. I don't know.
Yeah, the sad reality is war is this new pandemic. It's absolutely appalling.
It is. It's just sad to think that, like, we're having this conversation, but yet, that entire situation is currently happening, and there's nothing we can do, really.
Yeah, and it's quite weird because obviously they're not practicing sustainable thinking in any way whatsoever, because they're definitely not looking out for the sustainability of the people and the land that they're having this war in. But moving on, Kevin, the article emphasizes the fact that 7 major energy and land use systems, namely power, industry, mobility, buildings, agriculture, forestry, and waste, continuously contribute to emissions, and all of these industries will need to go under severe transformation, especially considering the interdependency of these systems to each other, actually. Then the final point there is which is a great topic for a future show, Kevin, is that circularity is that of circularity, which can be a major lever for decarbonization. And some of the brands we're going to look at later actually practicing a bit of this, which is quite exciting. An example of circularity is around the steel industry, for instance, where steel producers are actually now increasing the amount of recycled steel that they're drawing into new manufactured steel. And the immediate benefit there is reduced carbon dioxide emission versus that of new steel manufacturing.
So just explain again, because I don't know if I missed that, but what is circularity?
So circularity is it's on the process of, you're almost in the upcycle proposition. So where you take from the planet, you hopefully contribute some kind of regenerative feedback into the planet. You make a product. The product has certain byproducts and net offsets which you're using to create a next generation of product, and you start upcycling. So definitely I've selected some really great content to pick up on the topic of circularity in one of our shows. And if you think of this as an iterative process, it's about using, feeding in, taking off, producing more, bringing more byproduct in to create the next generation of product. And in each instance, it's using less and less of the energy and less detriment to the planet.
Simon, Craig, what are some of the sustainability initiatives being undertaken by industries and brands you mentioned earlier?
Kevin, the examples I'm going to cover from a great article published on sustainablebrands.com, which I came across just over a week ago. The article's titled "Brands Putting Rubber to Road to Create a Regenerative Near Future." And the article was written by Tom Idle, who's the founder of Narrative Matters, a company that creates and publishes really good content, particularly in this sustainable space. The article addresses a number of keynote speakers from Sustainable Brands 23 San Diego conference, which was just happened quite recently, and the brands that presented keynote addresses included the likes of Procter & Gamble, Visa, Repurpose Global, VF Corporation, which is the parent company of Vans Footwear, and Bayer Crop Science. And some of the initiatives and groundbreaking innovation that they spoke about is noted as follows. So firstly, Procter & Gamble continued their pledge to improving the lives and renews its focus on water stewardship. And for me, that's an important piece. So P&G's president and CEO, John Mueller, noted that the company is now more open to working with other companies to scale their sustainable solutions, citing the example of how P&G have invented different ways to actually recycle polypropylene, including how to remove odor and pigments from the recycled commodity plastics. And his closing statement referenced how P&G is also focused on managing water at its own operations, where 2 of their plants have already reduced water use by 30%. That's significant, Kevin.
Yeah.
Vans is revolutionizing the rubber supply chain through regenerative agriculture, and this is probably one of the most important supply chains to be focused on. Vans is revolutionizing the rubber supply chain through regenerative agriculture And that's, sorry, repeating, but really becoming a key topic of the San Diego SB23 conference. VF Corporation, which is Van's footwear parent brand, is helping rubber farmers to get much more educated in the practice of regenerative agriculture in the bid to address 30% of the greenhouse gas emissions of its overall footprint attributed to the raw material extraction. So VF are looking to reduce 30% of their emissions just by changing the extraction of rubber in the process. By 2030, it promises that its top 4 CO2 impact materials, namely cotton, poly, rubber, and leather, will either be regenerative, renewable, or recycled. So a really big statement. And it's focusing on the regenerative agriculture because it has the most potential for change and impact, benefiting the environment, society, and the economies of those societies. Elise Russell, Van's Senior Manager for Global Sustainability, explained how regenerative practices can actually boost yield, improve soil, and enhance farmers' profits and reduce the need for chemicals. What's really great is Van has a partnership with Terra Genesis, who's providing farmer training and helping to create these centralized networks of enthused farmers who are happy to share the benefits of regenerative farming. And to quote the article, it states that so far, 500 farmers have shifted to regenerative agriculture at plantations in Thailand, and they now have additional income streams and much higher premium prices for their rubber as well, Kevin. The next one really appealed to me as well, where Bayer Crop Science is using tech to help farmers boost their yields and improve resilience. Leo Bastos, who's Bayer's SVP of Global Commercial Ecosystem, explains how the business is working with partners to drive, again, regenerative agricultural practices down the value chain to cut emissions and reduce the impact on the environment, noting that global food systems are under pressure and adopting regenerative practices is the only answer. Here again, farmers have been educated in the importance of using some simple practices like cover crops and no tilling to keep carbon in the soil and find new revenue streams. And cover crops, Kevin, is crops that really have larger surface area covering, again, helping reduce the amount of heat and transfer onto the actual soil itself. So another way is utilization of precision tools, as I mentioned, improving yields and maximizing every single acre of growth while conserving resources in those plantations. Regenerative agriculture, therefore, enables farmers to increase incremental revenue opportunities and improve the quality of their soils. And Kevin, again, no conversation around sustainability should ever exclude reference to one of my favorite brands, that being Patagonia. To this extent, Patagonia has just designed its warmest coat ever made from trash. To set context here, and according to an article I came across on fastcompany.com, Costa Rica produces 4 tons of plastic waste every single day, Kevin, with 20% of that ending up in rivers and oceans. So fortunately, a company called Bionic sends teams out to collect this waste on a weekly basis. And then they bring it back to their factories and convert it into high-performing Gore-Tex fabrics, which Patagonia uses to manufacture their clothing. And in this instance, their Storm Shadow Parka, which has been manufactured with 50% of the Gore-Tex fibers, which are produced by Bionic from that plastic collected in the seas and rivers. And this jacket is actually positioned as Patagonia's warmest ever outerwear and contains no toxic forever chemicals in its weatherproof exterior. Yeah, and great to note that Patagonia again proves that fabrics made from marine waste can be just as high performing and technologically advanced as any other material on the market. And that becomes part of that circularity conversation, which we're going to cover in detail.
Craig, so what are the chances of getting Patagonia on the show?
Okay. Put a challenge to me. Let's see what we can do there.
Can you imagine? It's like, just listening to that. Like, if we could support that in some kind of fashion or some kind of way, to kind of go, hey guys, Maybe it's an intro that we have around Patagonia every single week. If that's a company that we can support that does stuff they're creating the warmest jacket out of trash. Like, I've never heard of anything like that before. And if we can support a brand doing that for the planet, then hell yes, let's support it.
Kevin, you must have a look at Bionic. Go and visit their website and just have a look at the amazing stuff that they're doing. And it's a beautiful website to experience as well.
Absolutely. I will definitely do that. So, Craig, as we end today's show, what are the key takeaways from what you want to share with the listeners for today?
Kevin, thanks. I want to reference, again, another great report from Sustainable Brands. This one titled Sustainable Brands Guidebook to Accelerating Sustainable Business Transformation. And the closing chapter to the report is titled 5 Actionable Steps to Support Sustainable Business Transformation, and it opens with the following key paragraph. Achieving sustainable business transformation is a vital goal for brands in today's world. However, the path to successful transformation can be complex and multifaceted, as we know. By approaching brand transformation through the lens of holistic framework found within the Sustainable Brands Brand Transformation Roadmap, brands can streamline their sustainability efforts and increase the likelihood of successful transformation as they innovate towards a more sustainable future. In addition to the Sustainable Brands Roadmap, implementing the following 5 actionable steps will help brands accelerate their path to greater brand sustainability. The 5 actionable steps for success are noted as follows. Step 1, establish a baseline. Conduct a thorough assessment of the brand's current sustainable practices, identifying areas of strength and areas that require improvement. This evaluation serves as a baseline for developing a sustainable transformation strategy. Step 2, measure what matters. And we've heard this phrase come out in many other conversations. Establish measurable, time-bound sustainable goals and track progress using key performance indicators to monitor and evaluate progress on the brand's societal, environmental, and economic impact. Step 3, incentivize innovation. Foster a culture of innovation by incentivizing employees, partners, and stakeholders to contribute to new ideas and solutions that result in continuous product improvement and services that deliver positive impact. Step 4, ensure alignment. Embed sustainability into the brand's identity and strategy by aligning the organization's missions, goals, communications, and training with its guiding principles of sustainability. And finally, step 5 is communicate and educate. Communicate the brand's sustainability initiatives and progress to all stakeholders, raising awareness and educating both internal and external audiences about the brand's commitment to positive change. And those are the key takeaway points for today, Kevin.
I love that, Craig. Thank you. So, I don't have a quote for you for today, so I'm just going to use Patagonia as a reference point for people to go and check out. So patagonia.com, guys, on the actual website, it says, for our 50th year, we're looking forward, not back, to life on Earth. Together, we can prioritize purpose over profit and protect this wondrous planet, our only home. Go check it out, guys. It's patagonia.com. I think they definitely need more support, and I think we need to get them on the show.
Right.
Greg, thank you so much. I love this conversation. I think building awareness is key. And I look at last week's conversation from where Stephen started to where Stephen is today.
Yes.
And he's just, going at it and doing what he's doing. It's profound, and it's making a hell of a difference. So, and it's people like him, people like brands like Patagonia that are like just listening to some of the things like the rubber, the what do they call it? The
regenerative agriculture. It's phenomenal. It really is.
That whole process. You kind of think that, hearing that people are actually doing stuff like that, and it's already set in motion. So, yes, climate change is happening, but at least there's innovation right alongside it, and people are starting to make a difference and make the world a better place. at the end of the day. So I love that. Guys, thank you so much. If you want to check us out every Thursday, Craig and I hash through a whole bunch of wonderful, interesting information. Craig, thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.
Yeah, look forward to that, Kevin. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.